What will happen to Satan? What will happen to Satan? And giving a great shout out to the YouTube family. Coming back, answering some questions on the series on Revelation that I did, the book of Revelation. And love all of the feedback and the questions. That's why I don't mind. First of all, I love God and I love His Word, and I don't mind spending time with the Word, spending time with the Father, and spending time with the YouTube family. Good question, Paul. You said you still not getting the clear understanding on Revelation. That's why I want to come back and do these videos. That's why I say you got to go through the Old Testament and the New Testament and back to the Old Testament, back to the New Testament. Revelation ain't no joke. And then once again means to reveal. But you said, why would the Lord bound Satan for 1,000 years and then set him loose again? Shouldn't He just leave him bound when He got him already? Which I think that's an excellent question. But if you read, you'll see the answer real easy. And let's just go right to it. Revelation chapter 20, verse 7. And it says, when 1,000 years are over, Satan will be released from his prison and will go out to deceive the nations in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them for battle. In number, they are like the sand on the seashore. They marched across the breadth of the earth and surrounded the camp of who? God's people, the city He loves. But fire came down from heaven and devoured them. And the devil who deceived them was thrown into the lake of burning sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet had been thrown. They will be tormented day and night forever and forever. So right there is when Satan is doomed, and you won't see nothing about Satan no more. Because all of these things have to take place before the New Jerusalem sets up. Because once again, there's not going to be no sin in the new heaven on earth, which I was talking about. The new heaven on earth, John said the old heaven passed away. The new heaven came down from God, the New Jerusalem. So you can look at Satan being doomed right there. But to answer your question, well, if you read that first few right there, it just said that he will be released from prison, because he's going to go out and deceive the nations once more. He got one more time. See, the devil know that his time is short, and he's doing all he can. But notice he tried to make war. Once again, he tried to make war, but he can't win. Look at what he says. They marched across the breadth of the earth and surrounded the camp of God's people. Of God's people. But fire came down from heaven and devoured them. And the devil who deceived them was thrown into the lake of burning sulfur. See, once again, that lake of fire is created for Satan and all his fallen angels. But people that don't want to believe in God, they're going to be cast in the lake of fire too. I hate to say that. Now, hope that answers your question. And I want to take you even a little farther than that, because you had another question about the dead are judged. Well, let's go to that. Moving right down to verse 11. The dead will be judged. And it says, then I saw a great white throne, and him who was seated on it. We all know who that is now. And the earth and the sky fled from His presence, and there was no place for them. And I saw the dead, great and small, standing before the throne, and books were open. Oh, what book is this? Another book was opened, which is what? That book of life. The dead were judged according to what they had done, as recorded in the books. The sea gave up the dead that were in it, and death and Hades gave up the dead. And Hades, it means hell. So death and hell, however you want to say it, gave up the dead and that were in them, and each person was judged according to what he had done. Then death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire. The lake of fire is the second death. If anyone's name was not found written in the Lamb book of life, he was thrown into the lake of fire. That's why I say there is a big difference between hell and the lake of fire. You see it once again right there. Because the dead will be raised up and judged. Let's back up. And it says, death and Hades gave up the dead that were in them, and each person was judged according to what he had done. And we already know God knows our works. But see, this is why I pause on that right there. Because when it says the dead will be judged, see, first of all, this is why I tell people you don't know who's going to heaven and who's not. Only God knows that. So they let me know when people are in hell. Remember, Jesus went down and preached in hell. How else was they going to know? Oh, come on, y'all. That's why many men had a great question about even in the days of Noah, even in the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. Do you think everybody was cast into the lake of fire? No, how could they be? The lake of fire wasn't even mentioned back then. The lake of fire only shows up in Revelation. But people think the lake of fire and hell is the same thing, but it's not. Because right here it teaches you once again that they will be raised up out of Hades. Look what it says. They gave up the sea. Death, Hades, which is hell, it all was brought and raised up to be judged. So that let me know, and I know most people ain't going to agree with this, but that let me know when God raised up the dead, remember that rich man was still woke. That's why I say there is life after death. Life after death. When he raised up people even in hell, which is hell is just known as the common grave, that's when the judgment starts. That's why he talks about the second death, the first resurrection. When you look at the second death, the lake of fire, see, you don't want to be there. Look at what it says. You should want your name on that Lamb Book of Life. Anyone named who is not rolled on that Lamb Book of Life will be cast in the lake of fire and will be tormented for day and night, forever and ever. Just say be. They're going to be set on fire forever and ever. And I believe you can't even die from it. So when you look at Hades and you look at the lake of fire, they let me know when he says they're going to be raised up and judged, each according to their own work. Well, how is God going to judge us? See, he already know your work. So they let me know when you are raised up from hell according to the scripture, you could be raised up from hell to go to heaven. Because when you look at hell, it's the grave. Come on, people. Some people call hell the resting place until Christ returns. There's a big difference. So just hope this clear that up with you also. And I know a lot of people ain't going to agree with me on saying hell is different than the lake of fire, but it is. You see Hades in the Bible quite a few times, but you don't see lake of fire to the end, which was created for the devil and the fallen angels. Remember when the devil left heaven, he got kicked out. He took a third of heaven with him. So we all know they was all considered as angels. That's why they call them fallen angels. He has his own spot to be at. See, one thing about the devil, he can't reign with the Lord. Now, he has no place in the new heaven. His place is the lake of fire, sulfur, brimstone, them burning coals. So when you look at hell, and I know people ain't going to understand, is because they always go back to the rich man when he lifted up his eyes. But, well, look very closely, that rich man was still alive. He was still breathing. He still could see. He still could see Abraham afar off. He was begging to get his tongue cooled off, but people got to really understand what they really meant. He wasn't in the lake of fire. So that let me know that rich man go to the lake of fire. People he could have went, he could have not went. And remember, Revelation is past, present, and future. So I'm not going to even try to confuse nobody with that. I hope this is making sense what I'm saying to you, bro. Satan will be doomed. He got to be set loose one more time to deceive the nations. He got to try to make his little war. He got to do all he can to try to think he can beat our God, but he can't. He already know he is defeated. So he got to take many down with him. You ever heard that old saying, if I'm going down, I'm taking everybody with me? That's what Satan is trying to do. And he's doing a very good job. So you just want to make sure you have your name rolled on the Lamb Book of Life. That's why I keep telling people, that's why I say the dead are judged. There's only one judge. And why everybody going around with all this judging? Y'all ain't nobody made it in yet. He said the second death. Don't be worried about the first death, but that second death, because he's going to raise up the dead, even those in hell. So they let me know you can be raised up out of hell. And when he say he's going to raise you up, now this teaches you that people that can be in hell can be raised up and cast in the lake of fire. But it also say they're going to be raised up and be judged. Now that's when God's going to make his decision. You either going to go to the lake of fire or you're going to go to the new heaven. Boom. There it is. Be blessed.